Taylor Swift.
Swift.
Ish.
What just happened?
People, you need to stop ringing my doorbell. Okay.
Yeah. We need a don't ring, we're podcasting floor mat or something. Okay, then I can go ahead and start. I guess I can turn so the lighting's a little better.
You're beautiful.
I know, it's just your lighting's much more looks better than mine, but that's great. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to Swiftish. It's Shelby.
And Ashley.
Yes, and we're here for episode 50 of season 2. I honestly have no idea when or if we'll decide to label it a season 3, but we've been doing this a while.
50.
Yeah, I know.
Second season.
Yeah, we started with Reputation, so now we're on to our fourth album. Yeah, fourth album with the podcast.
Yeah, so we did Reputation, Lover. Well, we tried to do Lover.
Yeah, almost.
And Folklore and Evermore.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Technically, we should be on to season 4, but Taylor didn't even give us. It was like a cliffhanger, mid-season finale cliffhanger, and then just kept on.
It's the lover. It's the folk lover more less era.
I love that. I think when we do season 3, it'll be when we have a next album where we can kind of just, I don't know, relax, breathe.
Yeah. It'll feel right in the moment when it happens. We'll know.
Yeah, there'll be more of a lead up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we are excited. Obviously, still getting used to the video format. But Ashley, you look lovely.
You too. I put makeup on just for this. I had no other meetings. I was like, I did a little wing. I don't know if you can tell.
Yes,
I did a little wing.
Of Taylor.
I can't do wings, so I literally have a stencil where I put it up to my eye because it always looks, and it still isn't even. If you guys are watching this, it's still not even. One's always like a little higher than the other. But when I try to do it on myself, my winged eyeliner just looks really funky. So I have a stencil. I use it on my eye.
It works. You look great. I love it.
Thank you.
We also, I don't know if it was the lucky episode last week, but we got another review.
We did. Yes.
From a fan. I think it's Iquilog. Iqlog. Iquilog. But they wrote, there are many TS pods out there, but I think this is the best combination of analysis, chemistry, news, fun, etc. Great job.
Oh, thank you.
I know. It's always
so
nice
sweet
to see what people gravitate towards with our podcast. I feel like it's always funny to see what they highlight, what they like, what they appreciate. So
yeah,
always fun to get a review.
And it's interesting to see what kind of I think we have a certain personality of fans that kind of gravitate towards us because I am a part of all these Taylor Swift groups and, some people, they're like they, there's nothing wrong with any other Taylor Swift podcast. They're great. They're all about Taylor, but they have their own little different personality to it, which, someone can tune into ours and be like, no, like too much rambling, don't like it, get to the facts.
Like, why is there so much laughing? Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't care. And then there's some people who are like, I love this. So, all the other Taylor Swift podcasts, it's not a competition at all, but we do have the best fans.
I know.
Listeners, we don't have fans. Listeners, but I know a lot of our people do crossovers. Like they listen to, I think it's like Holy Swift. They listen to, right now The Ringer is doing like a analysis of like album by album.
Every album ever.
Yeah. So people are doing that. So I think
to it?
I haven't listened to it. No, I've been listening to a lot of Dateline, a lot of Unresolved, a lot of horror podcasts, the No Sleep podcast. I like to get myself out of my what's going on currently onto like who's dying and who's writing about death.
Well, every album ever, the Taylor Swift podcast with The Ringer, I've listened to it. It's good.
It's good.
It's frustrating, which I feel like is how you feel listening to any podcast. And they're all Taylor fans, which I appreciate. But I'm like, they were like talking trash about Look What You Made Me Do. And I was like, excuse me.
No, can I hop on? Yeah. So it's a podcast, right? And they they're just not a Taylor Swift podcast. They're just in this section. They're doing all of the Taylor Swift albums.
Well, it was created as, I'm sure that they set it up so that they can do this for future artists, but it was set up like this spinoff for The Ringer is a Taylor Swift podcast that features a young woman, Nora, who is a writer and I think does like a football podcast for The Ringer, but is also a Swiftie, and connected her with Nathan, who worked with like, I don't remember the music side of things, like with Ticketmaster, I think, and stuff. And so he has more of the business perspective on her, but is also a huge Swiftie. So it's been fun. They go through each album and kind of have, it's fun. It's a good podcast. And I'm also excited because, like you mentioned, Holy Swift, I think next week we'll be doing a crossover with them in honor of the Fearless release.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
we actually met them for like a hot, quick second. They recognized us from like a photo we put on our Instagram. Or I think it was our jackets that we did for our Reputation Dallas. And they're like, "Hey, it's Swiftish," and we're like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, Holy Swift." I'm like, "Oh, competition." And we kind of had like a, "Hey, hi, okay, bye." Situation going on.
It'll be fun.
It's gonna be fun
to talk to them. So there will be an episode on their channel and on ours, and not exactly quite sure what it'll look like, but it's coming our way. But the news this week, I thought we had nothing, and then Taylor Swift released something literally 20 minutes ago. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Can I explain why I didn't see it? Because I know.
It's okay.
I know that No, I know that because usually I'm on Pulse with this. I have been researching. Well, first of all, we're doing Marjorie this week. Yes. So tell me why I was researching Dorothea. So I'm like going in Dorothea, and then like 15 minutes, I'm not even kidding, 15 minutes before we were going to record is like, "Oh, why am I Marjorie sounds familiar." I'm like, "Oh crap, Marjorie." So I was just like going into like Marjorie. So tell me, you guys, this is the news.
Is a real moment for you. This is
what is it? No April Fool's joke.
This is exactly the kind of Taylor Swift stuff you love. So she released a let me pull up my Instagram. So I can tell you.
I'm not going to open my Instagram because I want it to come from you so you can get my pure reaction. Because I want to.
No, so she released this post that said, "The vault door is about to be as unhinged as you'll think I am after you watch this video. Level expert. Happy decoding." And it's just like this really weird video of like word scramble and a song that's being played backwards. And so honestly, I was surprised because this happened 15-20 minutes before we were supposed to podcast, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to decode this before we're doing this. But Swifties work fast. I think there's like two brands of Swiftie. One like me, which is just like dumb and waits for smarter Swifties to figure things out. And
or have jobs, kids.
Who would have, if you had seen this, I'm sure you would have been on the other side, which is these clever Swifties who are like, boom, done, here you go, problem solved. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like a nonsense video that at first I was like, are these like acronyms for track songs or what?
Lyrics.
But it looks like it is like word scrambles, and each word is a different part of a song that'll be featured, because like if you unscramble the words, there's something that says like "You All Over Me" featuring Maren Morris. And so some of the other words are bye, baby, win, like that's where these sort of things. But there's also another featuring and Keith Urban. So he'll be on one of the tracks.
Will he be backup, or will he have an actual lyric, like an actual line?
I don't know.
That's what I'm wondering.
I know. And so again, like we talked about last week, I'm not versed in these unreleased tracks, so I don't really know any, but some people who are like, oh, okay, so We Were Happy and Mr. Perfectly Fine, which I guess are two song titles that are known to Swifties, except for me. And I'm sure by now people on Twitter have really unpacked it. But yeah, she let us know what songs are coming. There's not an I'd Lie, which makes me think people are right and it'll be on debut.
Yeah, I mean, how could
Just
she
keeping you
not?
updated on my I'd lie obsession.
I'm right there with you. A lot of people are like, it's gonna be on the debut. It's gonna be on the debut. So let's just say it's gonna be
Yeah,
on the debut.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like right now. I'm just so. I'm looking at all of these anagrams. Okay, I need to stop. So bye, fine, you, we, me, that's where, baby, when, happy,
Yeah.
all you don't, bye. Okay, I don't
Yeah.
know.
So,
I've got to get into this.
yeah, so I think there's songs that people like I think they're in this like unreleased vault, right? And so she's
Mm-hmm.
telling us which ones are on Fearless. I can't surmise like if she lists every song that's going to be a bonus track or if it's just like 3 or 4 because it doesn't seem like there's that many words, but I again don't know the titles of these tracks.
It's just 5 more songs. So
Yeah.
if there's 5 titles that pop up, I'll have to look into it.
I know.
Speaking of her unvaulted songs, we got "You All Over Me" last week, and did you hear the process of what the drummer went through to record his piece?
No.
Okay, so Eric Slick, he's the drummer, and this isn't like CIA level stuff, Swifty level. So John Lowe, he's a sound engineer. He worked on, I think, Evermore and Folklore. He reached out to him in February about playing on some songs. Didn't say who, didn't say what, but Eric was like, I kind of had an inkling because then Aaron Dessner hopped on board and was like telling him what kind of sound they wanted. They wanted an old Nashville vibe. And so he was like, okay, I'm not going to ask. It could be for somebody else because these are 2 big hitters in the music world, but I think it's Taylor Swift. So he got a disc, a super private disc that was password protected. And on the disc was a song that was password protected. And on this, he said that the song had vocals on it, but the vocals were muffled. So he had no idea, what he was going to be playing on. And the pitch was very low and kind of unrecognizable. And he had to basically they wanted him to play drums for a full song he hadn't even really heard. He didn't have an idea of where the swell up was going to be. And so he said he had to forge an emotional connection with a song that he knew nothing about. He says there are some drummers who are songwriters, and they tend to kind of really lean on the vocals of when to, crescendo, when to have that big pop. And he just kind of had to imagine okay, if I was a singer, this is when, this is when this would happen. Here's where the crash is going to happen. He's like, I think that's what I would do, even though he had no idea where that would happen. And
Right.
sadly, he has an NDA, so we don't know if he's going to be working on any other Taylor Swift songs. But John Lowe did say playing on some songs, so multiple songs. But I thought that was just really interesting, especially in a digital world and a remote world, how this goes about, because they didn't want him to tell anybody. And even if he did sign an NDA, they didn't want any word to get out. They didn't want anything to accidentally leak, so they muffled everything. They're like, I think he can figure it out just based off of this weird pitching sound. But I don't know. I'm just amazed at everyone's professionalism and just how creative they are, because I could not do that.
Well, because Taylor's always been paranoid. It's like how she does her music videos with the click sound instead of any music.
I know.
Good for her. She knows her worth, and she knows that people would, sell and say anything they want. So it is funny to see how she problem solves that issue. Next time it'll be a locked case with a security guard and a gun attached to it. It's like, don't.
Just gonna put him in a room for
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get out. Actually, you're here until the album actually releases. No cell phone. It's gonna be like Bachelor style. You are just quarantined away. No access to anything.
Hope you said goodbye. I have also been following Olivia Rodrigo's career closely ever since Driver's License released That was this year. It was this year.
That was this year.
And
I love that song.
I love it, obviously. And she just released a song called Deja Vu, which is equally as good. And it makes me really excited because she's just a fun, young songwriter, and she's obsessed with Taylor Swift. So relatable.
Her grandma.
Yeah.
Or mom. Which one was it, grandma or mom? Which one? She called her mom. Okay.
Mom. Okay. We're not that old. But she is obviously gearing up for an album release and has talked about how much she loves Taylor Swift. And ever since driver's license, when driver's license was such a big deal, Taylor Swift reached out to her to like congratulate her on the song and say she's excited to see what she does. And in interviews, Olivia's talked about how much she like loves Taylor and how this package Taylor sent was so important. She basically got like a Swiftness package of like hand wrapped gifts and a 10-page handwritten note from Taylor.
10 pages?
And yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And Taylor sent her a ring that reminded her the one she wore while she was working on Red. And it was like a $3,000 ring. Like, what would it be like that?
So
Just
relatable.
like a casual friend. And so it's just exciting to see Olivia be someone who's getting a lot of attention right now, who clearly has respect and love for Taylor Swift, because I feel like artists usually are the ones who have stood up for Taylor, who are like, no, she writes her own songs, she's like this good, like respect her. And so it's exciting that Olivia has been able to, as she says, I feel so lucky that I was born at the right time to be able to look up to somebody like her. Cute.
Oh, like, Taylor, you're so old, I look up to you.
It's like, I was born while you were making music. I mean, she is young. It's wild. I think she's 18 maybe. Like,
she's super young. Well, for me, she's super young. And one thing that I like is she kind of, you know, she's putting a lot of her personal details, her dating life into that, which kind of gives the Swifties a little like thing to look into, because you're like, oh, who did she date? Who's the blonde girl? Sabrina Carpenter. Like, there's a lot of like Easter eggs in her songs too, which you know, Taylor Swift is so great at connecting with her fans and connecting her unrelatable life to relate to people who are like common folks like us.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what Olivia's kind of doing too. And I haven't listened to Deja Vu. How would you rate it? Fun. I love driver's license. I'm like a 34-year-old woman, and I'm like, I have my driver's license. I'm gonna go drive by your house. How would you rate those two? Which one's better?
Oh, I mean, I guess driver's license is like stronger, but it's also more of a ballad, whereas Deja Vu is more like, I mean, they're both pop songs, but Deja Vu is more like upbeat. But Deja Vu does a lot of fun things. It feels like a really fresh song. Like the like music of it is just like a very different sound. Like, it doesn't sound like a song I've heard before. And it's fun. It's like a clever idea. It's her singing about a boyfriend who now has a new girlfriend, and she's just like, do you have deja vu doing the same things with her you did with me that you told me were like my special thing type thing. So it's very like it's very Taylor-esque, right? Like, obviously I totally respect Olivia as her own songwriter. I don't think not that it's an insult to be the next Taylor Swift, but I think Olivia is striking her own ground, and that's like great and exciting to watch. But it is fun to see someone kind of capture what was fun about getting into Taylor's music early on, which was this decoding and this like willingness to air your dirty laundry almost in a really real and authentic way.
Other people's dirty laundry too.
Yeah.
Like, that's, you're like, oh,
I love it. I love it.
Never gonna date that guy again.
Yeah. She's like telling all of his tricks to the whole world so that he can never play him again. It's delightful. But that's all the Taylor news I had. Did you have anything else?
I mean, the only thing that I had that fans are speculating over, and maybe we'll find out when she releases the Vault songs, is that floating word. She's been using floating around a lot. Like, the fans are the reason we're floating. And if you guys have seen that Facebook ad, said we're floating on a balcony. She also had said when she was doing the Long Pond sessions, that making music was a flotation device. So she's been throwing out floating a bit. And, you know, people are wondering, like, okay, is this from a Vault song? Because What to Wear, which probably isn't if we look at the acronyms, What to Wear is an old song that she wrote, and one of the things says, and you should see her, she's got magic floating through the air. But I don't think that's it. I feel like it has to be, if it's going to be something, you know, one is like a don't even think about it, use it 2 times, use it 3 times. In Taylor Swift's world, you're kind of like, is that going to mean anything? Or are we just going to be clowns putting on our makeup? Yeah. So that's the only other thing that I think, you know, we've been gone for like 4 months, and we haven't really dived in. And I saw someone post about that today, and I was like,
I know. I feel like people have thought it is like the 3rd trilogy album theory.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't buy that. I feel like she likes Folklore and Evermore as sister albums and not triplets. But I
Or
could be proven
brother.
wrong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cuz I just I don't know, but it is weird to see that. Like I saw that once Taylor Nation I think used Floating too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like
Mm-hmm.
it is kind of weird, but I also feel like it'd be weird for her to highlight just one lyric from one Vault song because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, why is that one so important? So then I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, maybe it's something to do with like there's theories that she still has a deal with Disney Plus, and so maybe she'll do like a Journey to Fearless redo where she does the remaking, the re-recordings sort of
Well,
documentary.
she did take off her Miss Americana from Netflix from what I hear. And
What?
that's what I heard.
I
That
will
is
check
what I
in.
heard. At
I
least someone
rewatch that
tweeted
all the
that. So
time.
you guys,
Well, it was April Fool's yesterday. So when did you see
but it
that?
wasn't yesterday that someone tweeted it.
Okay.
Hold on, let's go
I
on to
don't think she
Netflix.
can. I like
Okay, maybe
rewatched
this is
that
the April
literally a week
Fools.
ago.
You watched it a week ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it
It's
was an
still
April.
there.
Maybe
It's still
okay.
there. We've
Someone
got
was like,
it.
okay, well then maybe that was an April Fool's joke. But
Oh no! Oh wait. Sorry. This is confused because I downloaded it.
okay,
It's so it said it was expired, but that was just my download.
okay. Well,
It's
someone
still there.
posted that they took the Miss Americana off, and she's gonna do a Disney Plus thing. So this was not April Fool's because I was not on Twitter yesterday, which is really weird. I don't know where I got that, but
Swifties just make stuff up.
I know.
I
But
don't
yeah,
even
so
know where the theory. I don't know where they have proof that Disney Plus had a 2-film deal with Taylor. So it's like
I don't know either.
I don't know. But Floating, yeah. I mean, who knows where that will take us? But I'm sure it'll be a wonderful experience. But I'm excited. This episode, we get to do our first Evermore track. We haven't
Yes.
gotten to break one down yet.
We
Did we?
haven't,
Yeah, we
and
didn't.
this was our first shuffle. You put it
Yeah.
on shuffle, and we have it recorded. It'll be on our Instagram
Yeah.
account today, which is going to be a few days
Yes.
past when
The
this
math.
episode goes out.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we talked about Evermore, obviously, was we did our crossover with P.S. You're Wrong, my other podcast with Matt. And then when we first came back a couple weeks ago, we talked about how our feelings have changed a little bit.
Mhm.
But this is Evermore. We're covering Marjorie, which is the
Track
well.
13.
So to set things up, we're on album 9 of Taylor Swift's career. Evermore came out really fast after Folklore, which has led everyone to think maybe there's a third one coming, Floating or whatever. But it came out in December, and we were kind of so on it. But I will say I've always loved Marjorie. Marjorie's one of my
Mhm.
favorite songs, and it ended up in my top 10 of my rankings list, and it's like honestly I really don't think it'll ever be dethroned because I find it to be one of her best songs, and I'm excited to kind of break it down with you. It's definitely not one of her more like it debuted at like 75 on Hot 100, and it hasn't like necessarily taken the public by storm by any means, but a lot of critics cited this song in their reviews for the album. There's a lot of articles about just this song in particular. Even Matt, who doesn't like Taylor Swift, likes this song and like has listened to it since, which is a huge win for anyone who's aware of his feelings on Taylor. But yeah, what were your reactions to this song when you first heard it?
It was just really sweet and like really it brought a tear to my eye because then what I was doing around that time was watching all of the lyric videos so I can like watch lyric
Mm-hmm.
videos, listen to song, and read them as I go. And the lyric video is the sweetest thing. I actually just watched it like 15-20 minutes ago and I was like teary-eyed because it's pictures of her grandma, it's videos of her grandma going or like in ruins, like on vacation,
Mm-hmm.
exploring ruins, holding her as a baby, holding her mom as a baby, you know, like running to the car, very Jackie O in her
Mm-hmm.
outfits and singing to her. And
Yeah.
it's just really playing piano with her when she's a little kid, just all these montages. And it just really, really sweet. And it kind
Mm-hmm.
of like that nostalgia and that longing for someone that means so much in your life, but you like they're
Yeah.
gone and you have to keep
Yeah.
them alive through any way possible. And one thing that I thought was so great was um she's kind of living her grandma's dream. Her grandma was an
Mm-hmm.
opera singer, like really like local, nothing huge, had some mid fame in Cuba, but it's just really sweet. And some of the lyrics really line up with how she's living her grandma's dream. And it's
Yeah.
just, and I like that, the 13th track on Folklore is about her grandpa Dean, and then the 13th track on this is her Marjorie, her
Yeah.
grandma, and it really kind of tells you like it shows like a growth with her. It's not that breakup song. It's not like anything that gut punch you. It's really like her roots and what's important to
Mm-hmm.
her now, and it's
Mm-hmm.
that those two people are so pivotal in her life, especially her grandma.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I love it. I think it's interesting that with Folklore and Evermore, she talked a lot about this like dreamscape and what she did with her time in quarantine, which was writing 2 hit records, but also just thinking about, you know, life, where she came from, who she is. And
mhm,
it's really powerful that that led to not one but 2 reflections on her family history. And so Epiphany was about her dad's dad, and then Marjorie is her mom's mom. And like you said, is track 13. It was produced by Aaron Dessner, and it really does give this like insight, similarly to The Last Great American Dynasty, which was about this true story of this woman that history has forgotten. And here she gets to kind of give the same treatment to another woman who had to like let go of some dreams, or never really fully realize some of her aspirations, but still left this indelible mark on her granddaughter who
mhm,
lived out those dreams. And I think that has made it such an interesting, powerful song. It's like the parallelism to Taylor's life and what Marjorie could have wanted possibly, and just how it all intertwines in this really beautiful like testament to the power of family and relationships, and however those come in your life and however long they last. Some of the
yeah, and it
reviews
makes
for
you
these,
wonder
oh yeah.
too. So, like, she was 13 when her grandma passed away. Just like a few
Yeah.
years before they moved to Nashville, before she signed that record deal, before her career started taking off, and it makes you wonder. Like Taylor could have just had this raw natural talent, but her mom, who grew up with her grandma, having these dreams, wanting these aspirations, always singing, like it makes you wonder, like if it was that domino effect, like
Mm-hmm.
Andrea saw her mom's talent, what she wanted to do, but just like for some reason just couldn't do that, and was really like, hey, like my daughter has this talent that my mom has this ambition. And if it wasn't for her
Right.
grandma Marjorie, maybe she wouldn't be where she was. Like if Marjorie didn't live the life she did and have the talents that she did, maybe Taylor would have just been in some high school musicals, and maybe just like a power rock in the marketing world. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just interesting to see how certain people's talents and aspirations will affect you, like down
Mm-hmm.
the generations.
Right. Yeah, no, that's interesting because it's like it takes a lot for you to believe your child is capable enough to move your whole family across the country and like
Yeah.
try something like that.
Right.
I can't imagine, can't relate, but
Me
um,
either.
yeah, some of the reviews talk a lot about this, the emotion behind it. Variety says it features lines that will leave a dry eye only in houses that have never known death. The AV Club lauded it for its heart wrenching lyricism and the anguish production, named it one of her best songs to date. And In Me said it effectively depicts the grief and the complex guilt that is tied with it. And Rolling Stone dubbed it the centerpiece of Evermore, a brilliant and devastating piece of songcraft, an instant
Mm.
classic in the Swift canon. And even Rob Sheffield went on to write an entire piece just about this song alone, and he called it a new peak for her as a storyteller. And I'm curious, like I agree. Do you feel like this is top work for Taylor?
I think it's such great work, and she's really like pulling from her life and her own experiences in a different way. I love this song. It's not a song that I listen to daily, but it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a song that I'm like, oh, why haven't I listened to that song? And it really just
Mm-hmm.
draws up a lot of emotion. Like there was that review that said that if you haven't experienced loss, it's you're the only one with a dry eye. I haven't like
Yeah.
lost any of my grandparents, any siblings, like anyone really, really, really
Yeah.
close to me. But I get teary eyed because it just like draws those emotions
Yeah.
out.
I
I
know.
like it.
I'm excited to get into these lyrics. I am reading this week.
Yeah. Oh, and we also have to say that when you watch the music video, if you listen really, really closely, you hear
mm,
her grandma singing. She's actually credited
yes.
at the very end of the music video for backup
Well,
vocals.
she's in the track too.
The track too. Sorry, I just listened to the
Yeah.
music video right now, so she's on the
Oh
track.
yeah.
Like she's singing with her
Yeah.
grandma, like
I
who's
know. It's
passed
so
away.
sweet
Like
they
she's
did
keeping
that.
her memory alive through like every aspect possible. Like we've always heard, like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, Taylor's grandma was an opera singer. Taylor's grandma was an opera singer. There's that photo of her when she's super young where like, oh, they look so much alike. Oh,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, sorry.
I know. It's really cool because I think she just sent those like old tracks of her grandma singing to Aaron to see like is there a way to work these in, and so it's just kind of that background vocalization at the towards the end of the song, and it is just like a really haunting detail, and it's bittersweet because yeah, it's sad that it is just a haunting, like that she's not here, but it's also like a dream fulfilled for Marjorie to have this moment, right? To be part of
Mm-hmm.
this sort of something bigger than she could have even dreamed. Um, so let's get into these lyrics and see what the lessons are from Marjorie. The verse is never be so kind, you forget to be clever. Never be so clever, you forget to be kind. And it goes into the chorus, well, the pre-chorus, chorus. And if I didn't know better, I'd think you were talking to me now. If I didn't know better, I'd think you were still around. What died didn't stay dead. What died didn't stay dead. You're alive in my head. What died didn't stay dead. What died didn't stay dead. You're alive, so alive. And it's just like, I just like when I was listening to Evermore for the first time, I really wasn't vibing with a lot of it. I felt like I liked some of the songs, like I love Champagne Problems. Nobody No Crime was like fun and country, but everything else was just kind of like I wasn't captured by anything. And then
Mm-hmm.
this starts and it's just like such a beautiful orchestration. It's really like I don't know how to describe music, but there's like that thrumming energy. It's just like very gentle and it just pulls you in like really slowly with how she
Mm-hmm.
kind of sings at the beginning with this um, message of like never be so kind, you forget to be clever, and you're just like really, it's a very soft song, and I think it echoes how Taylor feels about the subject, which is
Mm-hmm.
she's a grown woman now, she's thinking back on her past, she's sitting in her own talent in this life she that turned out so differently than even she could have imagined at any stage, where she's now in a quiet relationship living it wherever she is, like keeping things on the DL and reflecting on all of her past trauma, like that we've gotten in other songs like Mirror Ball and all these songs about like long story short, like what I could have done, what I should have learned. And here she's like, oh, let's like sit down with my grandma and like remember the lessons she taught me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just like a very poignant lesson and a really clever play of lines there, but
Mm-hmm.
also just a really clean way to bring us in and then let us feel what she lost in having someone who was so wise and who had such insight kind of disappear before she was ready.
Yeah, and before she was old enough to really appreciate her grandma's and her grandma's experiences, her grandma's words of advice, like those
Mhm.
tiny little like instances where you look back and you're like, "Oh, I wish I
Yeah.
would have done this. I wish I would have paid more attention."
Yeah, and I think Taylor did mention on like the Evermore release, I think when she was in the YouTube like Q&A, that this was one of her favorite lyrics on the album is the never be so kind you forget to be clever, and never be so clever you forget to be kind. And it's interesting because like we talk a lot about Taylor Swift's career and missteps or you know, just follies that came on her
Learning
path.
opportunities.
Yeah. And just like you can see how she has kind of always been kind. And in Miss Americana, she talks about how she was maybe always too nice and too worried about
Mm-hmm.
being too kind. And so to have her be able to like pick herself up and be like, okay, yeah, I should always be kind, but I also need to remember to be clever. And like there needs to be this balance here.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that and how she kind of carries it into the chorus of this idea that, okay, you're alive even though you're not. And like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because then she goes into verse 2. Never be so polite, you forget your power. Never wield such power, you forget to be polite. Which again is really good advice. I was glad to have it. Um, she goes into the pre-chorus again, and the chorus where she sings, "If I didn't know better, I'd think you were listening to me now. If I didn't know better, I'd think you were still around. What died didn't stay dead. What died didn't stay dead. You're alive in my head. What died didn't stay dead. What died didn't stay dead. You're alive, so alive." And I think it's like clever too, because with folklore, she talks a lot about how, that's our love is passed on like a folk song. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's mirrored here, where she again is utilizing the importance of memory, the importance of storytelling, the importance of passing down lessons and people and stories so that they remain alive. And I think that's a really poignant reminder of like what she's trying to accomplish with the idea of folklore in general.
Yeah, and this song is like it's very simple. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
too long of a song. We're not gonna be on here forever
Yeah.
like diving into like these Easter eggs or this or that. But it's just
Yeah.
very simple to the point, lessons learned, and I think that's just the music, the beauty behind the song, and it's not too complicated, but everything behind it, like you were saying, the production, the the way she sings. The bridge is one of my favorites. It's I don't know how you and I can't even talk right now because it's just such a great song and it's just so simple, but
Yeah.
there's not too much to it. It's just like an
Yeah.
overall, respect your elders, learn from your grandma and grandpa, learn from those around you.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I was thinking of when you were talking about this is, you're still alive in my head, and like when I go home, my grandparents are still alive, but every single time I go home, my mom's always talking about her grandma, her grandpa, stories about them, and it's just so important to keep those memories alive, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like you just learn from their mistakes, their lives. You're in awe of like everything they went through, and that you're here telling their story.
Yeah. And I feel like I really like this lesson, like this idea, never be so polite you forget your power.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I think as women we're often told like, be nice, like, oh, just like don't draw attention to yourself if you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be hurt type thing. And I think it's really powerful to see this coming from Taylor Swift. Um, because again, it's a lesson we've seen her learn and a lesson we've seen her put into action. And I think it's one that we can all be stronger for, like remembering that. But it's also great looking at Marjorie's life herself and imagine how she did that, like as a young woman, like living in a totally different time period. And she's
Different
still
country.
like, yeah, she was in Cuba.
Yeah.
She managed to like claw her way into she was like hosting a TV show down there. And it was like, she's like, yeah, I knew I was just the straight man to this funnier, like Hispanic man. And I was just the dumb white blonde type thing.
Who had bad
And
at Spanish, and that's why they put her
yeah,
on because I thought it
yeah.
was funny.
Yeah, but it's like it's interesting to see how that strength and like generational strength of a woman who can make her life like that in a time when it was harder for women to be taken seriously, and just kind of imagining like seeing the benefit that comes with growing up with examples like that in your life and how
Mm-hmm.
not only Andrea is but now Taylor is. And I think obviously this song is personal, but the fact that she is not only sharing like how she feels about her grandma, but what her grandma shared with her is a very vulnerable place for a pop star to go. And it gets even more personal with the bridge, which is beautiful. She sings,
I
"The
love
autumn
it.
chill that wakes me up. You loved the amber skies so much. Long limbs and frozen swims. You'd always go past where our feet could touch. And I complained the whole way there, the car ride back and up the stairs. I should have asked you questions. I should have asked you how to be. Asked you to write it down for me. Should have kept every grocery store receipt because every scrap of you would be taken from me. Watched as you signed your name, Marjorie, all your closets of backlog dreams and how you left them all to me." It's like a
It's
punch to
just
the gut.
it is. It really is. And one line that I love the most is, "Should have kept every grocery receipt because every scrap of you would be taken from me." It's just so like a slap in the face. Like, oh my gosh, like it's not like people took it from her. It's just that time took it from her.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And I love
And
what you
then
were saying earlier when you were talking about like how your parents talk about their parents. And like, I think what's interesting is it takes time for us as kids to like appreciate it, because I would like always roll my eyes at like some wandering story down memory lane. But
yep.
now I'm in a place where I'm like, wow, yeah, what was that like? Like, what was it like growing up then? What was it like? What were they like? And there is this like thirst that comes with age that you just don't have when you're a kid. And that's why this bridge is so heartbreaking, because she's remembering all these chances she had to learn at her grandmother's knee, but she just like abandoned them to run upstairs, to complain about the long drive, to like to miss out on something she didn't know she'd be missing, you know?
And 75. I mean that's old, but that's not too old. So she lost her
Yeah.
mom, her grandma, at like such a young age, and it's so bittersweet that she wasn't able to really see Taylor Swift's success. And the last line, "All of your closets of backlog dreams and how you left them all to me." Oh,
Yeah.
that's just like a tear-wrenching line, because we know what we know of her grandma is that she had dreams just like Taylor. She wanted to make it big, or she wanted to be in the public eye. And then, she just passed them on to Taylor.
Yeah.
Kind of like those folklore, the stories
Mhm.
that you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's so beautiful because
Mhm.
yeah, even just that idea of she had to hang up her dreams, like to be a mother, to be a wife, like to live in the world that she'd been given, and she couldn't like do anything except pack them away with care and hope like someone remembered them. And then here comes Taylor Allison Swift, who manages to become a global superstar, and even in all that like glitz and glamour, she's able to take a step back
Mhm.
and look at what her grandma did leave her, and honor that in such a unique and really just vulnerable song, I feel like.
In a way, her grandma's like sacrifices, how whatever they may be, really did benefit Taylor. And I think she knows that, and she's seeing that, talking to her mom, having her, she wherever Marjorie went. So she went to Cuba after she got married for her husband's job. So she was making all these sacrifices, putting her career aside, going with her husband, taking care of her kids. But wherever she
Mhm.
went, she was kind of like doing what she wanted to do. She was
Mhm.
still, making music, doing what she loved, but that was kind of on the back burner of raising her kids and,
Yeah.
putting her husband's career first. And so all these sacrifices that she's made in the long run, I think really benefited Taylor. Like
Yeah.
if Marjorie had been such a success and back in like the 40s, would Taylor be such a success now? We might know her name, but she might just be another famous person's relative who can
Mm.
sing, but no one takes him
Yeah.
really seriously. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
And
All the what ifs.
yeah. And I think it's like this bridge also serves the purpose of like showing how, ballsy her grandma was with something as simple as this idea that she'd swim off further than anyone, and she just kept going and like
Hmm.
reaching for something, and
I
it's
love
just
that. I didn't think of that until now. You opened my eyes with all of these lyrics. I'm always dumbfounded by like these things that you, from just one simple line, then you like
I
just
read too much
make it
into
so
them.
deep.
But I think it's just, I mean, first of all, it's a beautiful image that Taylor manages to describe with this idea of this autumn chill, these long limbs, like just something like that, where it is like, yes, they're both these beautiful tall women, and I just feel like she really hones in on all her skills and her talents with this song because she is able to give those really specific details we always talk about. She's
Mm-hmm.
able to give those really memorable one-liners that we always praise, and this song is just a masterpiece in her own talent, and she's dedicating it to the person who came before her, and I just find that really moving. And
Yeah.
she goes into the chorus again: what died didn't stay dead, what died didn't stay dead, you're alive in my head. What died didn't stay dead, what died didn't stay dead, you're alive, so alive. And if I didn't know better, I'd think you were singing to me now. If I didn't know better, I'd think you were still around. I know better, but I still feel you all around. I know better, but you're still around. And it's just like the way
Oh.
she sings, the fact that this is where her grandma's voice comes in, like it all just feels really emotional. And there's songs that you can feel the weight of them when Taylor sings, and I think this will always be one of them. Not because she's like it's clearly not like the same emotional like piece as something like Soon You'll Get Better or Ronan, where there's suffering involved. Um, but this instead is just that sort of somber regret, but also nostalgia, and it's just like it's sad, but it's hopeful, and it's whimsical, but it's also like, oh, if only. And I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
such an interesting emotion for Taylor to explore, and of course she does it brilliantly.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like
And
it's
it's,
yeah, go ahead.
I was like, it's such a relatable song too, with people, losing people from COVID or just from, natural causes. It's just
Mhm.
no matter where you are, some point in your life, you're gonna feel what she's feeling.
Yeah. And just this idea of if I didn't know better, I'd think you were talking to me now. If I didn't know better, I think you were listening to me now. And then she gets to sing, if I didn't know better, I'd think you were singing to me now. And that's when you kind of hear her, and you have this outro where she's like, okay, I know better, but you're still here, but you're still here. And I feel like that is also interesting because obviously, I mean, religion and faith is a totally personal journey, and who knows where Taylor Swift is on that. She sort of sings about it with Soon You'll Get Better too. But just this idea of like, we can't necessarily know what is next, like where people go, what is the meaning of life, all these sort of things. But the way that Taylor's God, at least in this song, is music. She's trying to find sense of like, the meaning, like where is she, what can I do, how can I feel her, and it is through music, it is through this sort of connection to music that they shared, even though she's not technically here anymore. But just that hope and that wish and that pray that wherever she is, whatever that energy turned into, that it is something like real that she's feeling connected to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it's a really honest song for someone who can sometimes keep us at arm's length even when she's singing about personal stuff. Like obviously we have a lot of personal songs from Taylor, but there's something that just feels like she's still unsure here instead of giving us like here's the in next chapter. Like this the beginning of the story, the middle, the end. This is all her in the moment trying to suss it out. But anyways,
Mm.
um final questions.
Yes.
Um, so let's see. The Taylor of it all. What do you think is the most Taylor Swift lyric in this song?
Should have kept every grocery store receipt because every
Yes.
scrap of you would be taken from me. That's the Taylor of it all
I
for me.
know. I know. Same here. I feel like it'd be hard to pick another one. I mean, there's great lines in this song, but something about that just feels it's just so specific, and that specificity is just like jaw dropping.
Yeah. I love how she was like, oh, just that the trash, the thing you would crumble up and just throw away. I wish I would have kept that because I have nothing left from you except for like your backlogged dreams. Just to even see what you would buy at a grocery store would be insightful to me to get to know you better.
I know. Chills. I just love it. Okay. The Easter egg hunt. What's your favorite Easter egg around or in this song?
It would be when she sings I Think You Are Singing to Me Now and how she incorporates her grandma's vocals into the background.
Yes.
Definitely. What about you?
I find it an interesting lyrical parallel that I don't think was intentional, but this echoing of what died didn't stay dead is the real mirroring to her most memorable line in Look What You Made Me Do, which is, honey, I rose up from the dead. I do it all the time. And just this idea of, Taylor can't be killed off. She is like here to stay. You can't destroy her. She wants to be here. But then echoing it here where even this loss that should be permanent doesn't feel permanent for whatever reason. Like there's still something clinging to Taylor about her grandma. And I just think that's a fun kind of mirror there.
Like
final score, are you gonna grade this?
An A all the way.
Oh yes.
Yes.
I give it an A+. It's like, this is flawless, 100%. Here's some bonus credit, honestly. Give me 10 more just like it.
Give me more.
Yeah. Okay, but is it making the set list?
I don't know. It just really depends on what vibe she's going for on her next tour, because it could.
It depends
it's
what
such a great
floating
song.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. What is floating? Like it could be on the tour if it's a Reputation type of tour. I don't really see it there. If it's more of like a, I don't know, a Fearless or Speak Now, I can see it being like a medley. It just all depends. I don't know. There's some songs where I'm like, yes, no. This is a, I don't know.
I feel like this is a no, except I can see her tying in some of the lyrics of like the chorus or the verses into some sort of
Long Live
or something.
And Marjorie could be like tied up.
Yeah, she'll just do like a journey to cleansing where it's just like, here, you've transcended to another state, and this will be featured in it somehow. But yeah, that's Marjorie. I'm glad we got to start off Evermore with one of my favorites.
I know, you rigged it.
I've grown to love other ones too, but that was one that stood out. So it feels right that it's the one we started with.
Well, I'm glad. It just was like kismet, just meant to be that this is, we, first of all, we're actually touching on Evermore. And then second of all, it's one of your favorite songs on Evermore. So it's great. Yes. And if Dorothea's next after the shuffle, then I'm all ready for it because I kept my notes. I did.
Good for you. So, no, but next week we're doing Fearless. The re-release
next
is already
week
here.
Is in 1 week because we're recording on Friday, and then next Friday, April 9th, is when Taylor Swift releases her re-records. And I'm excited for, what are you most excited for when it comes to the Fearless album?
Listening to new songs is always fun. But there are some, I'm trying to remember now which ones are Fearless and which ones are Speak Now. Because there's some that I'm really excited for off of Fearless to just get her new vocals. Let's see. First of all, Fearless has a lot of good tracks. Like the title track is so fun. You obviously have 15. It'll be interesting to see how she does that. And I'm obsessed with The Way I Loved You, which is sort of a forgotten one, I feel like, but I think it's one of her best narrative songs that she's done. And I feel like a re-recording will like show how strong it is. So I think I am more excited to see how her old songs like turn out, like hold up, how they feel different or whatever, which ones stand out now. So that's what I'm looking forward to. What about you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to giving more life to her forgotten songs, not her vaulted songs, or her forgotten songs, because a lot of people know the Taylor Swift now, and a lot of people, 1989 people, know the Taylor Swift now, and maybe they've gone back and they've listened to the old Taylor Swifts, but all of like the hit, the hop, the really big singles, hippity hoppity. It's Easter on Sunday. I have to get a little bunny hopping in there. Like, I'm excited to really rediscover old Taylor Swift because I'll be honest, I don't really go back and listen to old Taylor Swift a lot because I'm more interested in like what she's doing now, and listening between my true crime podcasts, I'm like, oh, let's listen to Evermore and Folklore. So I'm excited to really give a new fresh eyes on something so precious.
Okay, well, moment of truth. What track do you think will be your favorite? Do you think it'll change from Fearless, or do you think it'll be whatever is current?
Hey, like you, I need to look it up because
pull it up.
because it kind of just all meshes.
I think I might end up, because there's some songs that I just can't stand for different vocal reasons usually.
Okay, like what? Like what?
I mean, I don't want to say. I'll get canceled.
Hey, Steven.
Yeah, Hey, Steven has always been a struggle for me. I don't know if she'll be able to save that. I think it'll be interesting to see her try because it's a very like twangy song.
Yeah.
But I think I'll love The Way I Loved You or Tell Me Why. I feel like those two songs are going to be the ones that I really worship.
So I loved Forever and Always, so I'm really excited for that Forever and Always. And of course,
do the slow version, which I think will be really powerful.
Yes, I'm really excited for like that's just like a tearjerker for me. And then I don't know, probably. I mean, You Belong With Me because everyone knows it so well. Like, will it be the same? Will it be like Love Story where like there's some difference? I'm also excited to know if there's gonna be any more seagulls like clawing out of the sky. I'm excited for that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe it's finally here. It felt like so long since she announced it. I know. And it'll be fun to do it with Holy Swift. So you guys should check them out if you haven't already. And we're obviously on social media. We're at Swiftish Podcast on Instagram, at SwiftishPod13 on Twitter. And we'll be trying to come back with the 2-episode special in honor of the Fearless Taylor's version.
Very excited about that. So until next time, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Shelby.
And Taylor, we are just floating on air waiting for Fearless to come out. Floating.
Emphasis on floating.
A young woman people can't stop talking about.